everybody, and welcome. I'm very excited to have Laura Garfield here with Idea Decanter today, talking about video marketing. I see we've still got a couple people coming in, so we'll just give it another minute or two here. But Laura and I were just chatting about all things marketing, kind of with an upcoming recession on everybody's minds, how video kind of plays into that, what advisors could be talking about to their audience, all of that good stuff. And we got just like a huge influx of questions ahead of this webinar recording as well. That we'll be addressing today. And obviously, if you have questions as we kind of go through, as always, very informal. I've got my cup of tea here. Usually it's coffee, but this is afternoon, so we're not going to do a coffee chat. We'll do a tea chat. I'm reducing caffeine this afternoon. And feel free to drop questions in the chat. I'll kind of be monitoring that as we go. And we'll just kind of pick up the Q&A from there. But Laura, welcome. So excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Well, I'm out on the West Coast, so it's still morning and I'm still drinking
It's still coffee? Hey, I'm probably going to end up having a coffee later. Like, let's be honest. So I was telling Laura we have our kids' trunk or treat after this. And so I have a feeling some caffeine might be necessary to power through that event. Yes, exactly. Awesome. Well, Laura, tell us a little bit about yourself and just what you do, who you work with.
Well, I am co-founder of Idea Decanter, and we are a video marketing company for financial advisors. And we create videos remotely. We used to do all on-site video production where we would fly to our advisor teams, shoot on site, go home and edit their videos for them. And now we do it all through an app, but kind of same end-to-end video production. So we have sort of a unique perspective in working with RIA teams, as well as teams that are with broker dealers all across the US and Canada. And so from where we sit, we get to see what video marketing strategies are working for certain advisors in certain parts of the country. So it's a privilege to get to have that insider's view.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've told a bunch of my clients about you guys. I find the app just absolutely a fascinating concept because you're right. So many advisors look to work with someone who's local. Depending on where they live, it can be really time consuming, incredibly expensive. Often I find the price range and just quality of work is really varied when you're limited to just local firms, right? And so being able to work with someone who knows the industry, who understands regulations, who has an exceptional process to make it easy, like I just think that's such obviously a win, like just for anyone I've talked to so far.
Well, and not to dog any of the local video production options,
Mm-hmm.
What it's hard to find though is a local video production choice that has any experience in the financial services sector.
Yes.
Just don't know that much about compliance and the rules and regulations.
100%.
Doesn't mean you can't produce videos that way. And it also doesn't mean you can't produce videos on your own. And a lot of the things we're going to talk about today, I would highly encourage you, if you're thinking about DIYing your video, to take these ideas and run with them.
Yeah, 100%. And you're totally right. We've worked with several local video firms across the country as well, like with our clients in different areas, and have seen a lot of good success there. But there is definitely that element missing of just understanding the ins and outs of financial planning, understanding just some of the topics that might resonate. And I think that dovetails really nicely into one of the number one questions you brought up, and that after I sent you our initial list of questions, several people also asked is, what in the world should I talk about? Like, a lot of advisors I speak with are comfortable on camera, or maybe will be comfortable on camera, willing to risk it, if that makes sense, but just have no idea where to even start creating a content calendar, what to go over. So how do you usually recommend navigating that?
Well, I like to start with audience. What are you trying to accomplish, kind of from a strategy standpoint? And we tend to look at story ideas or content in two buckets. And one is engaging your prospects, and the other is nurturing your existing client relationships. And I think far too often advisors get laser focused on what am I saying to bring in new business. And what we have found is that the most successful video marketing for advisors is actually serving up great content to your existing clients, which is kind of counterintuitive. Like, I'm spending time and money on this because I want to grow my practice. And really, by kind of elevating the experience You're giving your existing clients who are already your fans, you're giving them a really powerful tool to, get the word out about you.
Mhm.
So when you're thinking about the prospect side of the list, it's sort of those kind of high in the funnel messages
Mhm.
that will help them understand who you are, probably before they ever even set up a meeting with you,
Mhm.
or messaging that you can use through different stages of your funnel. We've been working a lot this year with advisors creating videos that you can use, let's say, when you're confirming a first meeting,
Mhm.
like what kind of video could you be sending out before you ever sit down with them, so that when you do, they say, I feel like I already know you.
Mhm.
Um, what can you send out after that first meeting to further the relationship and help make them understand your process better? The third kind of possibility for video in your funnel, I call it the nudge, because I
Mm.
always think,
Mhm.
there are folks who feel like they're a good fit for you, and then they just end up sitting on the fence, for whatever
Mhm.
is going on in their life. But the nudge video is something you could send out. Maybe it's funny, even, let's say like 6 months into the I still haven't made a decision.
Mhm.
Um, we did a nudge video for our company called You Don't Need Video, talking about
Mhm.
why financial advisors really shouldn't use video, and it's very tongue in cheek.
Mhm.
But we've worked with advisors doing stories like, you know, what you could have accomplished with a financial plan in 6 months,
Mhm.
what time means and the value of time. Any of that can
Mhm.
be powerful. Like, yeah, like I do need to make this decision. I need to move forward.
Mhm.
And then the fourth thing we look at that side is the onboarding video. And that's someone has made the decision to work with you. And how can you sort of future pace that relationship, let them know what they're going to get from you in the next 6, 9, 12 months, whatever.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's so funny because we've been saying the same thing. And we just finished all of our 2023 planning surge sessions with clients. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that we had heard a lot of at a marketing summit we attended recently was heading into a recession, looking at doing bottom up marketing instead of top of funnel down marketing. And so having advisors or business owners in general, right, invest marketing dollars on content that is going to be nurturing those client relationships, making them
Mm-hmm.
stickier, making them more referable, and kind of carrying them to and through the potential storm as opposed to focusing on how can I get more and more leads at the top of the funnel that may or may not bite right now, really building a strong foundation for your business that will then grow for years and years to come, right? So I love that
Well, we're
idea.
we're working with an advisor, kind of on that
Hmm.
nurturing those existing client relationship side. We're working
Hmm.
with an advisor in Chicago who does a series called Go Big, and Big is an
Mm.
acronym for Begin
Hmm.
in Gratitude.
Mm.
And that is how he operates in his life. It's how he runs his practice. And so as we got to know him and started his strategy, we realized that Go Big absolutely should be a piece of what he's talking about in his videos. And he does a
Hmm.
series, at least he does a video a month, but at least one of those a quarter, he's talking about beginning in gratitude and how it's showing up in his life, and
Hmm.
how he encourages his clients and people he knows to think about gratitude and apply that to their lives. And I think that, you know, it doesn't seem like that's a way that is going to grow your business. It sounds like it
Hmm.
feels like it's just a very touchy feely, feel good message that you're
Hmm.
putting out there. But the very first Go Big video he sent out, he blasted it out to his existing clients and his COIs and prospects on his list. I think he had
Hmm.
about 300 people on his distribution list for this email. And 8 minutes after he sent out his first one, someone emailed him back and said, I love this idea. I'm ready to start working with you. And
Oh.
the same afternoon, another potential
Hmm.
client called him back and said, I just saw your video and I really think that you're the right fit for me.
Hmm.
So really, like, finding your personal message and connecting it with your clients
Oh my
does
gosh, yes.
grow.
Tapping into that authenticity, right, in content creation. I think that ties back to thinking, you had said like your clients are your biggest fans, right?
Mhm.
Thinking through, okay, if my clients are my biggest fans, why is that? Is it just because I do is it just because I do exceptional financial planning work? That's probably one component, but they
Yep.
probably chose to work with you because there was that person connection, right? They wanted a lifelong relationship, or they really trusted you. Finance is so nerve-wracking for so many people. Like you have to have that element of trust and honesty. And I really like that idea. The go big idea is fantastic. I'll have to look that up. And yeah, if you want to send us, I don't know if you can, but if you can send us like samples of stuff, I think that would be fantastic too, just to show people like what you guys have done and what other advisors are finding success with. I think everyone, that's a question I get all the time. So, well, with that kind of in mind, I think that kind of also brings up just another very like basic block and tackle sort of question. How long should videos be when looking at your video marketing, or is it different depending on the type of video that you're creating?
I do think it's different depending on the type of video. There was a time when people were making 8-minute videos, 12-minute videos.
Hmm.
I don't know what the turn was in our
Hmm.
lives that when we click on a video these days and it's that long, we think, I don't have time to watch this. But
Hmm.
unless you were giving someone a detailed how to, uh, going that long in a video is
Hmm.
not making the most of your viewers' time.
Sure.
Our
Hmm.
standard is 3 minutes or less. If
Okay.
it's for high in your funnel, it actually should be 2 minutes or less. If
Okay.
your audience is already bought in and they already like you,
Hmm.
they will give you more time and attention than a cold audience.
Got it. I think that's so interesting too, because I think a lot of advisors feel like 8 to 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, like they really want to go in depth. And that can be a lot of high value content that maybe
Mhm.
is better split out into smaller videos, or because we've seen the same thing for our clients who are doing video, that 2 to 3 minutes is a good sweet spot. And people are always shocked at how they get there, right? They feel like, oh, I need it to be this really long video because I want to pace myself in talking or something. But I find even when we're recording short little, like
Yeah.
we call them the marketing minute videos, they always end up to be like 2 to 4 minutes because like once you get rambling about a topic, it's just easier to keep going.
Yeah, and if you're working off of a script, a good standard is most people deliver a minute with about 150 words.
Okay. Hmm.
So if you are planning out what you say, if you're using a teleprompter, that's a great way to know in advance. Like I need to keep this under about 450 words.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I
So
think that is really helpful. Interesting. Okay, cool. So I'm just looking over our question list here. So how long videos should be. Another question that we got a couple times actually, which surprised me, which I guess I want to know the answer as well, is what platform should advisors be using? So typically we recommend videos go live on YouTube, probably on social media. Is there a difference between YouTube and Vimeo? What do you guys recommend?
well,
We were talking about length of video, platform to use. You had talked about
and
YouTube being the
I,
largest, second largest
I would
platform.
add to that our recommendation is to always use any content you create, um, any video you're recording as a utility player. And
Okay. Hmm.
so number one is to find the place where you're hosting it, and YouTube is our recommendation. Number two is to plug it into your website because you want to give the people who you're driving. We prefer to drive them to your website so that they're on your home
Hmm.
territory to watch it there.
Hmm.
And then after that, natively uploading it to any social platform that you're using. And that's a step that a lot of advisors kind of, I think they mess it up
Hmm.
because the ideal way to use video on social is for it to autoplay. As people are scrolling through their LinkedIn, their Twitter, their Facebook, you want the video to start playing as soon as it appears on their screen. And the only way to do
Hmm.
that is to take the actual video file, the MP4, and upload it. Um, all you do, like let's say you're on LinkedIn, you start a new post and you click on this button that says add a video, and then you choose that file. It's
Hmm.
pretty simple, but if you have like a compliance kind of social tool, most of those don't work well with video. And so you just need to be aware that if you want the most engagement on social with it, you really need to take that MP4 and upload it natively to each platform. So do that on LinkedIn, do that on Facebook, wherever you're using. But I
Hmm.
would think the final step is really the most important, and that's emailing it out to your list, like Fernando did with his first Go Big video. Um,
Hmm.
and sometimes even emailing, depending on the message, doing some individual emails to important influencers on your list, key
Hmm.
clients. I had an advisor in New York who created his first video was his bio. Um, and it was just
Hmm.
a personal story. He talked about how he still remembered all of the license plate numbers of all of his family cars growing up and his high school
Hmm.
wrestling stats. And he just had this mind for numbers, and he put it to work for his clients. And he put all that in his video, and it was about 2 minutes. And then he went on to talk about why he loved being a financial advisor. And he sent that video, though his clients already knew who he was. Some of them didn't know all those details, but he sent an individual email out to his 46 AAA clients, and said, hey, this is my first video. I'd love to hear what you think. And if there's someone in your life with a financial question, don't hesitate to forward this on. And from his 46 emails, and this took him like 3 hours, he sat down 46 personal emails. He got 10 new meetings and 6 new clients and millions of dollars in assets. And really from talking about like, hey, I still remember my high school wrestling stats. But
Hmm.
I think the key to that was that he got personal, shared a little bit about himself, and then that really is what helps you start building the relationship. So once you host it somewhere, plug it into your website, push it out on social, then do not forget the emailing step of that. I think it really is the most important. And I would add that you're not going to email people any way to upload. We just had a question in the chat for emailing. Is there a way to upload the MP4 directly, or do you recommend linking to YouTube? What I'd actually recommend doing is posting on YouTube and then embedding over on your website. So you're linking to your website for them to watch it, to a specific landing page there. If for some reason you can't embed into your website, we work with some folks who can't, then linking them over to YouTube is fine. But what I do recommend is that you include an image in your email. And so if you're just blasting out through Outlook, that's just adding, a JPEG that has maybe a play button on it. We call it a thumbnail, and dropping that into your email and keeping the copy kind of short, sort of teasing the video, and then hyperlinking that image. So it looks like people are clicking on a button to watch the video there. And then once they
Hmm.
click on the image, it takes them over to your website and they actually watch it there.
I love that. And I love the MP4 loading to social media platforms that you mentioned as well. I feel like we see that a lot where advisors either skip that step, or as soon as we do it, all of a sudden their profile views go way up or their social media engagement goes way up. And it's because for all the reasons you mentioned, right? The autoplay, all of that good stuff. But also we kind of call it like just like you would want to load video to your website to play on your home
Mm-hmm.
turf, when you're working with social media platforms, you want to play by their rules, right? So like leveraging their algorithms, and typically like native content,
Yep.
whether it's in LinkedIn, you can do like LinkedIn Publisher for articles, things like that as well. That tends to perform
Yeah. Because LinkedIn
better.
doesn't want you leaving their turf. They want you staying there.
Exactly. Same way you don't want people leaving your website, right? They have their own rules to keep people on the platform as long as possible
Yeah.
too.
And so that it really is a fail if you're grabbing that share URL from YouTube and plugging it into LinkedIn, because what happens is when people click it, they're watching it on YouTube. They're not, LinkedIn wants to keep you.
Hmm. No, absolutely. I think that totally makes sense. So another question that we had kind of gotten, and I think, I mean, you can see in your background, you have some lighting tools there. And this is something that I really struggle with. So, but as far as like lighting, background for videos, I find a lot of my clients get hung up here, right? So they kind of want to make sure I want it to look really perfect. Like behind me, obviously, like mine is not perfect. It's just my home office. But what do you usually recommend? Do you recommend some people record videos with like the fake office background, or do you prefer like the more authentic, like just show you warts and all? What's sort of the
Well,
idea
let's
there?
start with backgrounds because I love that topic, and
Okay.
then we'll cover lighting. So backgrounds, I'm not a big fan of green screens. I don't like fake backgrounds. I really prefer um, recording advisors, recording ourselves um, for our own
Hmm.
marketing videos in our native environments, like we're somewhere in a zoo or something. But like, if a client could potentially see you there in your office, like even if it's not perfect, I mean that's where you are,
Hmm.
and the message is really about more about connecting with you than it is the background. Now, you don't
Hmm.
want a super distracting background with a whole bunch going on where nobody's going to pay any attention to you. They're just going to be like, wow, that's a lot of dirty
Hmm.
dishes in the sink behind you, or whatever it is. Um,
Sure. Hmm.
but something kind of clean, something kind of neat. I mean, even um, your shot is pretty, and having the two different two-tone walls behind you. But like, even if you go with kind of a blanker wall, that's
Hmm.
absolutely fine. On the lighting front, what surprises most folks is that it's actually natural light is the most flattering. And I can tell you have a window in front of you, um, and
I
it's
do.
beautiful
Hmm.
light on you. And it's the light that's going to make you look your best. So if you can shoot yourself near a window, let's say like at a 45-degree angle, you don't want sun blaring in at you. You don't want the window behind you because you're going to look like you're in the witness protection program. But getting some natural light that's not super bright falling through a window is really flattering. The other counterintuitive, super simple tip is to turn off your overheads because that's the least flattering
Mm.
lighting. What it
Hmm.
does is ends up casting shadows here and here. Um, and it just doesn't make you look good. And so if you just use those two simple tips, you don't need to spend money on lighting. Now, there are situations where you're going to need to fill in, and you could get something simple like over my shoulder. That's just a ring light. We get the newer ring lights. You can get one on Amazon for about $80.
Hmm.
There's also a really nice setup that we order sometimes for clients of a certain age, I would say, called the
Okay.
DASNY, which you can also find on Amazon, and I think it's
Hmm.
DAZZNE, and you can order a single light or a double light, um, and they're LEDs. But just remember that kind of 45-degree angle idea that putting a light here or putting a light here is going to be more flattering.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, see, that's something that I would not have guessed, but I knew the natural window thing just from trial by fire. But yeah, I like the 45-degree angle idea too. Interesting. So then I guess for advisors who maybe we push all of our advisors to do some form of video, I think it makes the most sense. I think people, like you had said, connect with video, warms up cold leads so they feel like they know you, re-engages current clients and really develops that relationship, which I love. But some advisors just like don't want to be on camera. Really, like they're just not comfortable with it, makes them uncomfortable. How do you guys feel about the sort of 1 minute, like we've all seen them, like the whiteboard
Right.
sketch videos or like a Loom recording where they're sharing their screen in a PowerPoint? Do you feel like it's as good, equal to, not as good? What's sort of your opinion
I
there?
mean, we are on a wave of change for how people are consuming information, and it is becoming more and more
Mm-hmm.
video based and less text based. And I'm not saying there are still people out there who prefer to sit and read content, but there is
Mm-hmm.
definitely this massive shift going on to people who want to kind of digest that content as a video. From that perspective, a whiteboard kind of video or an animated video does help you get a specific message across.
Mm-hmm.
And there, you can definitely get offshore options to do that are very inexpensive. What I think those lack is your face, your perspective. So if it's about like explaining something, the nuts and bolts of something, I think those can work. But we really prefer to see you in a video, because what you do is so trust based and so relationship based that
Mm-hmm.
having the courage to step in front of the camera, even though it doesn't feel great, you're very
Mm-hmm.
critical of yourself. Like, we're all that way. And we hear that a lot from advisors. Like, I'm not going to be perfect. This isn't my forte. It's still get a
Mm-hmm.
shot, is where and when you mentioned, doing kind of a PowerPoint presentation, or sending a Loom video, any of that, I think, is a great way to connect, to help build trust. I encourage people to have the courage to click the button and turn your little thumbnail on in the corner so people can see, not just hear
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. I think too, one thing we've told a lot of our clients is before they're ready to just like have their face center on the screen, doing a PowerPoint slide with their thumbnail in the corner is almost it's like a mental game, right? Of like, well, my face isn't taking up the whole screen, so I feel more comfortable here. Which I find funny, but it works for a lot of advisors to dip their toe in the water and kind of build and slowly expand. So I think that makes sense as well. Um, well, I guess why don't you tell us a little bit about your guys' process? Talk us through the app usage, and then we'll kind of open up the floor for questions. So, audience members, if you've got questions, drop them in the chat. And thanks for bearing with us with my connection difficulties. I hope that it's not been like super weird, but I just keep like popping in and out. But anyway, so drop your questions in the chat. We'll kind of talk through, Laura, just your guys' process, how you work with clients, and then we'll answer kind of the roundup of questions
Well,
here.
I think the way that we work with clients, you can apply our process if you want to DIY it. If you feel like you have the bandwidth to be creating your own videos, I would
Mm-hmm.
follow the same kind of steps that we do. And our
Mm-hmm.
very first is building you something called a playlist. And that is a brainstorm session that goes through the content ideas that fall into those two buckets we talked about earlier: engaging your prospects, nurturing your existing client relationships. But it's the upfront figuring out, like, what should I be talking about? And then building that into a content plan for your year and sticking to it. It's kind of like a gym membership, but actually like showing up at the gym too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it
Mm-hmm.
takes discipline to do video marketing. And if it's an intention that you have, and you need some help, some accountability, some expert guidance, I think that's where we come in. But it starts with your content plan, or what we call your playlist. Our next step is, after we've identified your first story, we do something called a muse session. Most of our clients are working off of a pre-written script that has gone through compliance, and they read it from a teleprompter in our remote studio. So we'll get on a call with them and interview them. And this is a process you could do on your own as well, just kind of a Q&A. So it's thinking through, like, what are the most important things that someone needs to know about this topic, whether it's your bio,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's your process, whatever it is. And then, answering those questions. And so when we're done with that call, my team writes the script for our advisors, gives it to them. They can make some tweaks, and it goes through compliance. And then for the record session, they download an app on their phone, and we give them a call. We send them the gear that they need. And then they get a code to get into the app, and it's a remote studio. So it's kind of like this. They can see us and we can see them, and we help them set up the shot, get the background right, do the lighting, a mic check, and then we turn the screen of the phone into a teleprompter. And the most important thing that happens in there, I think, is the live coaching. So our kit coach is giving some live performance feedback on great job. Let's go back and do that part again. Make sure you're smiling, slow it down, speed it up. And then we pull the clips into the cloud and do all the editing, which is something that can really bog down, I think, even the most tech savvy of financial advisors. And I do get on calls with folks who are like, okay, so I just resurfaced from 3 days down the rabbit hole of trying to edit my video, and I think I need some help now.
Yes.
So I think it's just it depends on, what's the best use of your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the app idea is so cool. I do think that like that live feedback is something that a lot of people would really benefit from. I know I would, where it's just like, I know that there's stops and starts or areas where I should be smiling, or you're so focused on presenting the material. As some of my team tells me, that's like your eyes are just staring into the like when they give me my feedback. And so like that's always interesting as well. Especially if you're recording solo. Obviously, if you're recording like this, where it's a conversation, I feel like that can be easier, more personal. But if you're just solo recording by yourself, it's easy to get kind of stuck in your own head, I think.
Well, interesting performance tip. We invite an advisor who shows up on camera and just is authentically themselves and just kind of to do it naturally. We do a monthly call called the Advisor Video Academy, and oftentimes we invite them to sit in the hot seat, one of those advisors, and just talk about their process. Like, what are you doing on camera? Like, to be yourself. And an interesting tip I just heard from an advisor last week was he's deliberately looking away from the camera while he's recording occasionally, like, like he's glancing down or like he's thinking about it. And it makes his delivery seem really authentic. I think
Interesting.
Your gestures and your hand movement. What do I do with my hands? We get that question a lot, but there's a lot of choreography that can go on into really just making it look like you're natural.
Yeah. You're a person and not just a robot. We did get a question in the chat. What's the typical timeline for your team to create a video?
So typical, like, let's kick this thing off to this video is ready to go on my website is 6 weeks. That timeline can be condensed. But I would say in general, it's 6 weeks. Most of our advisors are actually doing ongoing video content strategies, and how we operate is we want to bunch up video recordings to kind of make the most of your time, but still give you enough content to get you through the year. So we usually work on a single project right off the top. So it doesn't feel like a lot. That process takes about 6 weeks. There are some extra calls at the beginning to kick you off. And then when that project is finished, we start working on your next two. Those get recorded in the same session. And then after that, we do like every 3 months, we record 3 videos at a time. And by that point, most advisors are recording those 3 videos in 60 to 90 minutes. All 3 can go through compliance at once. And then you've got 3 months of content to share out.
Yeah, my gosh, that sounds like a dream for many of the advisors I work with. So, well, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me today. If we have any other questions for Laura, we can go ahead and submit them just through email. I think everybody here knows how to contact me. Everyone who registered will get the recording, and I'll give you Laura's contact info. And Laura, where's the best place for people to connect with you?
There is a way to schedule a call on our website. We're at ideadecanter.com. And I was just thinking, if anyone wanted to see the examples of our work or Fernando's Go Big story, you can find that all on our website. If you go to our homepage and click on the Learn More button about Idea Kit, that will take you to a page that has a bunch of video samples, and Fernando is in there. And there's also a way you can schedule a call. We do free strategy sessions. So you are welcome to schedule a call with me, and we can talk about where you are with your video production or get any questions answered. I can help give you some good ideas. And we can talk about Idea Kit if that fits for you. So you can find a link to schedule that call on our website, or you can email me. It's Laura, Laura, at ideadecanter.com.
Well, thank you again so much for joining us today. This has been an absolute blast. I love video marketing, and it's something that I always want to learn more about. So again, everyone, we'll get contact to link to some of like Laura's resources on your website and everything. But again, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Zoe.